So the purpose of this lab was to test to see how seeds grew with different salt concentrations and to see how it affected their growth. So in the lab, what we did is we took 5 bags and filled each bag with 4 different pea seeds. And then we took each bag and filled it with water and a paper towel. But in the water, we mixed different salt concentration. So 2%, 1.5%, 1%, 0.5%, and 0%. And then we measured to see how much they grew, to see if the salt at all seemed to affect how much they germinated. And so our results were, as you can see here, we had some germinate, like this one right here, grew, I don't know if you can see that, it grew a really long ways, and then we had like some here from our 0.5%, and then unfortunately as we got to the 0.5%, we got some that didn't germinate at all. And so in conclusion, so as we took all the results, we found this. So of all the seeds that germinated, for the 0% and the 0.5%, 100% of all the seeds germinated. But in the 1%, only half of the seeds germinated. And then in the 0.5 and 2%, absolutely none of the seeds germinated. And so for the lengths of how much these seeds germinated, in the 0%, 0% category, we had an average length of about 14.7 millimeters. And in the 0.5%, we had an average of about 16.2 milliliters, as you can see right there. And then in the 1%, we had an average of about 2.2 milliliters, and then for 1.5 and 2, we had none because none of them germinated. Now, for the reason, even the 0%, we had our largest germination, which was this, but none of the other seeds really germinated for some reason, which is really surprising because this had no salt, so it should have grown the most. Yet in the 0.5%, we had 3 of them grow about this long, so that's why the average for this one is larger than the 0%, even though 0% had the largest growth. And so, to confirm all these results, if we look in the Science Behind the Stories by Jay Withcott and Matthew Lapsoda on page 234, they talk about salinization, which is the buildup of salt in soil. And so what happens is, as water comes in, it brings salt with it, but if the heat or humidity is too high and precipitation is too low, then the water will evaporate fast enough for the salt to get spreaded, so it just sits there and builds up slowly over time until there's too much salt, like as seen here in the 1.5 or 2%, and nothing can germinate. So this is a huge problem. And so, in conclusion of our test to see whether or not salt affects the germination, we can see that that is true. But if we want to know more, a few other things we could look into is, for example, how this salt affects different types of seeds, because to keep things consistent with our lab, we only used pea seeds, but of course we do test other seeds like corn, soy, or any other type of plant to see how much it affected. Another interesting thing we can test is what other types of minerals help it. Because, like, for example, we only looked at salt, but there, of course, is many other things dissolved into water other than salt that we could also test to see whether it positively or negatively affects the growth so we can get better crops. And that is it. Thank you for watching, and I'm sorry for the unorthodox approach. I'll try to see if I can get it working, but if not, I might just have to do this in the future.